Yes, we are recording, so go ahead.
Okay, we'll call this special session to order Wednesday, April 8th. The time is 4:03 p.m. Okay, let's talk about our mission.
Matt, I'm just waiting to be able to share the presentation.
Hey, Rachel, we can barely hear you, so you
Can't hear you, Rachel.
You need to really turn up your microphone or talk a lot louder.
All right, let's try it. Close.
It's almost like you're muffled.
Yeah, Rachel is on her home computer and not on not on the work laptop, so it's a little bit different than previous meetings.
Sure. Okay. All right, Rachel, go ahead and try. We'll give this a shot. Hey, my computer says it's going to try restarting in 4 minutes and 51 seconds. I know.
You should be able to cancel that, Rick.
I pushed close and it didn't. It only gave me the option to restart it.
We'll see what happens.
Okay, and I am just going to work around. Matt, I'm going to send you the presentation right this minute.
Okay.
My apologies for the delay. While Matt gets this loaded, an item, yes, we are reviewing the mission. We're also just gonna, I wanted to have a round table and talk about how everyone is doing in this time. As Matt shared, yes, we are an early adopter. We have figured out how to work around much faster than some other municipalities. Would any of you counselors kind of like to share from your perspective, leading the organization during this really trying time? How's it been going?
I'm getting no volume at all from Rachel. I can barely hear you.
Yeah, Rachel, your computer is not going to work for this.
I mean, I hear her just fine.
I can't hear her.
I don't hear her either.
Hey, Rachel, can you go ahead and call in? And you can use the video on your computer. Just mute your microphone. And you can use and talk through the telephone. That will be a better sound than the mic on your home computer.
Right this minute.
Okay, for the rest of the council on the roundtable discussion, managing the temporary reality that we're dealing with right now. Definitely very trying times. There's a sense of uncertainty where we're going, how long this is going to last. Very scary to a lot of different people.
So I think what Rachel, once she gets online, we'll get her back in. But if the council wanted to chat at all about our current issues, what you think is working, what isn't working, and kind of just reiterate how the last meeting went electronically. If there's any discussion about how we could improve things, how we could do things differently, what you guys saw from counselors in regards to our last council meeting.
So let me get this straight. On our agenda, we're skipping down to 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. That's right, Doug. So I think it went really well. It was actually amazingly good. We didn't have any difficulties like what we're dealing with right now with the muffled, somebody coming in muffled. It's not the same as running I'd like to be there on the dais and running and getting public input and being able to have that interaction with staff.
I miss gouging you with my elbow. Dang.
Other than that, I think it went really well, amazingly well.
I have to applaud the staff for getting up and running and staying safe in your offices, in your space, decontaminating your environment. It all went to plan. I'm very impressed. Thank you, staff.
You're very welcome. We've been trying to ensure that the workers are safe, but still continue to provide services and be available to the public best we can. So.
One of the things I checked in with Public Works to see if they were okay with their safety issues with masks and gloves and that kind of thing, and so I was affirmed that things are going okay in Public Works. I didn't go over to their shop or anything. I just communicated with Sue Nelson, and things seem to be okay.
I was over at the food bank, and one of the needs they could use a couple of volunteer drivers, some for just a few hours every day and one for a couple of hours, about 4 hours once a week. That's their problem at this point. They also have people who would like to donate food but can't because they can't track it. But we were trying to find out people that could accept this, or organizations that could accept this personally donated food. So if anybody knows how to volunteer or a group, please get in touch with the food bank.
Is this Meals on Wheels, or are they that senior center that comes out of the senior center?
Yeah,
Is that correct?
The Meals on Wheels basically has to be tracked food. That's the problem. They are handling it moderately well. This is, we'll say, private donations that come in that normally without this virus would be accepted. But since it cannot be tracked according to the official rules, it has to go to someplace else. So any other organizations that could accept food, please raise your hand.
I'm not following you. The food bank needs drivers,
Right.
Or Meals on Wheels needs drivers.
The food bank needs drivers.
Okay.
Okay, that's problem one. Problem two is people would like to donate food to the food bank, which they typically have been able to do, but they can't do it right now because of the new regulations that it has to be tracked. So there is donatable food, but we need a place to put it.
Hey, you guys, I had to come through on the phone. My computer is doing an update all on its own.
We're glad you could get through.
Keith, you got anything, or Ginny, you have anything regarding state of affairs?
Just for people are suitably anxious about distance learning for the kids. There's a lot of large families in our community that have 4 or 5 kids that are going to have to figure out devices, internet access, time, support from their family. Maybe their parents, they have a single parent or a parent that's an essential worker. Who's going to help these kiddos? And then there's the whole piece with the graduation and their seniors. And it's just, this is definitely going to be the event of a generation for sure. We won't forget this anytime soon. But I've just seen, so many outreach from person to person in our community, moms helping other moms out and things of that nature, people checking in on their neighbors. And I think that, Columbia County definitely really shines in the service because people want to do for others. So I think that just remembering our best self, I think that ultimately we'll persevere.
Great. Keith, what about you?
I know it's trying times, and I think it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. I got to say, I think definitely an advantage being in a small town versus a big town. The differences I see between here and Salem. A lot more people out and about in Salem, especially kids and stuff like that. Where up here, everybody seems to be wearing their mask and doing the right thing and staying apart. So hopefully, this area will be hit less than the bigger areas.
Yeah, we all hope that.
Yeah.
And the parks.
Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Loud and clear.
Okay. My computer's finally done updating, and I'm trying to come back the other way. Keith, I couldn't stop it. It would not let me.
Put yourself into the Hollywood Squares there if you can.
That's all right.
Yep.
You're making do.
Yes, I am.
So, any comments about parks? Has anyone heard anything about parks? I know down at Riverfront, people are walking and they've got a lot of space between them. They seem to be out enjoying our parks and keeping a distance. Any comments from anyone on that?
Yeah, I think there's a really good movement about staying separate, not clustering up, and people and finding places where they can be outside and be alone and not be bunching up at playgrounds and such like that. I have not heard anything, any violations or anybody deviating from the social separation.
And what about our citizens? Are they being communicated to effectively? Has anyone heard, John, have you heard anything, any complaints regarding the council? I mean, I haven't heard any other than we're glad the parks are open and facilitating people and everyone's keeping a distance. That's what I've heard.
Yeah,
And that's what I've seen.
I haven't had any complaints about the the parks being closed or anything of that nature. I think people are recognizes the seriousness of the nature and taking it, they're taking that to heart and doing their part. So
Level of seriousness. I had some conversations with some of my Chinese friends today, and some of their families have not left their apartment or living space for 4 months. So that's how bad the Chinese are taking it.
Okay. And Matt, if you'd like to get into the presentation, we've come really far in the past couple months, thanks to you all, and thanks to coming together to work on goals for the agency. It's been work at this level and also the staff level internally. And you will see
Hey,
at our last.
I'm sorry, but I think I need you to let me in. I can't hear you guys on my computer or nothing.
You got to tell him that we hear and see him.
Yeah, but I'm on my phone. I'm not going to sit on my phone.
But we can see.
Do I need to?
We see you, Rick.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to hold my phone up to my ear.
Top of the screen, there should be a volume control on the top right.
It's on the bottom here.
On your bottom there. Okay. I'm sorry, I was standing on my
Rick,
head.
it looks like it's still.
There we go.
It's
There
still,
we go. You had to allow me. Okay.
All right.
Okay. So Rachel, do you want me to share the presentation?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
That is a fine place to be.
You want to go ahead and start, Rachel?
Yep, go ahead.
Oh, are you talking or
I'm
not?
glad.
She said, go ahead, Matt.
You go ahead. We're gonna do it as a team here. Go ahead.
You sound much better too.
All right. So what you see on the screen right now is the updated vision and mission that was originally taken from what was already there. Like we've talked about earlier, we're really trying not to recreate the wheel right now. The council as a whole felt pretty comfortable with the current vision and mission as it stands right now. So we're keeping everything that is coming to play on this mission and vision. Are there any questions from the council in regards to the mission and vision?
Well, I like the way we pulled it apart and separated the vision with the mission. It just seemed so complicated, but without a vision, and pulling that apart, I think it just reads more effectively.
Yeah, I think the staff really agreed with what you just said, Doug, and it was pretty easy once we started looking out how to break it up. It just made the most sense and was clear as crystal to break it out like the way you see right now. So, Rachel, you want to talk about this?
Well, I feel like we did. This is our round table.
Yeah, we already did. This was that number 3 in the agenda.
Yep.
Before we go forward, I had one comment. I had one comment about the vision and the mission, and I think the one thing that we're missing is that we can work on is really identifying what our core values are, and working to formulate that so that we put our values out on the table. Everyone can see what we're, how we work, how we function, and what we value as we work together.
Absolutely.
That is definitely something Rachel and John and I have all talked about. So that is kind of the next layer once we get all of this going through. So don't get too far ahead of us, Doug.
And this, just a reminder, in that very first meeting to set the stage, we talked about that, the strong governance that we are looking for as staff, and how to guide this, how you have gone about and defined objectives. We as staff have gone in the background and put our projects underneath it. Well, first, of course, going along your objectives, we put in some tactics and projects. This is the large spreadsheet in the packet, and we're going to be getting to this in just a moment. We're also going to be working to improve how meetings are run and how work sessions are delivered. We're really going to work to improve how we as a staff report to you and how that is connected to back to the goals and back to the mission. Yep, and here we are, just to recap that first meeting, talking about why we all serve the 14,000 residents of St. Helens, who they are, the differences in our communities that make us special, and kind of color how we deliver the programming. I went through, and a shout out to Lisa for wonderful minutes. Went through and I chose a point from each of you counselors about the accomplishments and the dreams for the future. And if you look through, it's the way the mission resonates in what each of you were saying was really striking to me. I just wanted to share that back with you. Into that second meeting, and this has also been included in your packet along with the regional SWAT that we conducted. Here you go. This is side by side, the city council top 2, and then we included, if there was a tie, from council and also from staff. you'll see similarities and you'll also see some of our different perspectives coming into play. I didn't know if y'all had a chance to review this, if there were any takeaways from you all.
So the full SWOT analysis is available in your packet to view this page as well as the full document that was done by City Council, city staff, and also the regional one was included as well. Any questions or comments from what you see as the top two, or if you've had a chance to review the full sheets at all?
I'm just looking
Yeah,
at.
hold on. I need another minute.
Yeah, not a problem.
Yeah, so I got a question on counts on our weakness on council roles. You guys have us as number one on weakness.
So I think that really stems from the discussion that we sort of started in a past meeting of the goal setting, but also something that the council kind of addressed in updating the governing policy. But it's really identifying what the council liaison roles are compared to what they have been in the past versus what they're kind of leaning towards in the future versus how the city administrator role steps into that. And I think they're overall, it was a number one on the weakness just because there is some confusion as far as what those liaisons role mean in today's governing policy. And
I mean, number two, I'm definitely with you guys. $90.8 per thousand.
Yeah, so that number one is kind of an ongoing discussion that we may get into a little bit later on in this meeting, but it may also be a separate discussion when we talk about the governing policy and the organization structure of the city.
It certainly needs to be looked at from the council point of view as well, and especially defining our governing policy, because the governing policy is the thing that is the issue that's flipping a bit and has been transformed from one thing to another. Here we're writing, one time we're writing evaluations on our department heads and on our city manager, and there's discussion on that from the council of, you know, whether we're going to do that further. What are we doing? What's going on? What kind of leadership issues are we formatting with, you know, across the line with our commissions and committees and with our staff and crews, so, and the departments that we represent.
No, I would definitely agree that it seems like we're kind of all on different levels on that.
Yeah, and that's why the agenda item for governing policy discussion is to kind of talk about that, talk about things we've done, things that, you know, how's it going, kind of a check-in kind of thing. And
yep.
Not meant to take this goals discussion too far astray here, but you know, you look at the weaknesses, you look at the threats. You have, you know, the council has organizational structure and trust, and the staff has kind of the council roles kind of as part of that. And there's some, you know, it's worth talking about. So
yeah,
that's a big bite issue, and I don't think we can even touch it in this meeting.
Yeah, and I don't expect, I just want to introduce it. I don't expect to get any resolution. So.
But you know, I'm going to find the one that bugs me the most.
And you'll see that later on when we go through the project lists of the ones that are on our the list of projects that are on our list to get done sooner rather than later is the organizational structure, and part of that discussion is the council roles. So it's definitely a discussion we have for later on.
It seems like to me that, and further discussion on this for sure, but it seems like the weakness and the threats, the misinformation does come from us probably as well.
It's a combination of misinformation as far as getting direction from council and
Yep.
department managers, as well as the misinformation that was discussed with the council as far as just information out in the public.
So you know we're aware of that, right?
Yep.
Okay. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, hopefully it's not a surprise. So
Okay. Anybody else got any comments on this?
Yeah, talk about the misinformation. A number of times, two departments overlap, meaning two different council members overlap in their liaison, and we really don't have, away from council meetings, a good mechanism for us to know what the other council member is doing. So when we talk to staff, we're basically a one line rather than two lines intertwined. A lot of our information is not connected with the other person's information. And that,
I agree with you on that, Steve. And
and,
I think if we can get back to the basics, and I hate to keep bringing this up, but when I went to PSU, when I first got elected, everything needs to go through John, from us to John, and from staff to John, and John relays it back and forth. He is the middleman. And I know he's got a lot on his plate, but that is his job, and that's, if we have questions and need answers, he's the man.
John
And
is the
one
human funnel.
way, that's the problem, Rick, because we tell John something or ask John something, and there's a time lapse when he gets to the next person and comes back to us. And a lot of things are seemingly simple, but are time critical, and that time hurts.
Okay, so if it's not time critical and you felt that you're not, then I guess that would be, in your council report would be the time to bring that up and have a discussion on that type of stuff in the future, moving forward.
there's definitely room for improvement at the interdepartmental council relationship. It's all very, lots of overlapping circles for sure. So.
We know we need help there.
And one of the things, a lot of those comments really waste time in an official council meeting. That's the other problem. Some of it is, we'll say, trivial at a council level, meaningful at a staff department level. That's, I think, one of our problems, how to handle the two differences in priorities.
Yeah, I think that the discussion is probably going to lead towards the council acting as a governing body collectively versus the individual roles of how you interface with departments and boards and commissions, and acting through that, having some decision making. Right now, you have decision making capability within that role, so it's just a. I think there's some efficiencies to talk about.
Yes, and if I may, even in the course of this process, I think we're going to do some really good work around good information, being unified on goals, being unified on projects. I really see this as a great opportunity for improvement and to clear up this threat. Having us unified, have staff working to meet the direction that you have set as a governing body, and how we report and how we can improve the information that you're getting, the quality and the timeliness of that information.
Okay to move on?
And we're going to get into it shortly.
Hey, Matt.
Thank you, Mayor. So the next slide is our steps to success. This is not a new slide, but something we wanted to reiterate to you when we start talking about the Excel spreadsheet that I'm going to show you here in a little bit, and how it's built with the step process in mind of the vision, mission, goals, objectives, tactics, and then projects. So this is just a visual representation of what we're going to show you here in a few minutes of that staff has put together. So here we have the 5 main goals. We've simplified them a little bit just for wording, still keeping the same essence of what was identified previously, but the 5 main goals still remain unchanged. So hopefully that is not new to anyone here. And Rachel, do you want to talk about this?
Just to say, look at how far we have come very recently. We started with a mission and with the council goals that were adopted last year. And over the course of this really short time, we have worked to pull apart that mission and vision. We've really worked on being succinct with the goals, and staff took the opportunity, put in those objectives, the tactics and projects. And Matt is going to be showing you the sheet right now. Please do note that we are going to clean up the formatting of this so that it's easier to read and understand. We're also going to be creating a plan to share this with the wider community and to have it up on our website. Yep. And Matt, whenever you're ready, please go ahead and lead.
I am going to drop this over here. So like Rachel mentioned, this is just an Excel document right now. It is something that Rachel and I and Crystal, John, and everyone is going to work on to create a more approachable document that we can have publicly on our website and outreach to the community of what we're currently working on. If you picked up your packet, you'll notice that I printed off a few different pages, and I've printed them off deliberately on the step process. So the first page that you'll see in your packet is just a 1 page of the mission, vision, and the goals and objectives. So these are the main goal areas that you're already familiar with, and then some already identified objectives that have been included to kind of start that process off. So as we talked about the step process, once we get to this first step, then we go down to step 2. And step 2 identifies any tactics or ways that we can achieve the objective. So for example, on this first objective, create and maintain an effective organization. Well, how do we do that? Well, it's by reviewing the city goals and objectives to prioritize. It's attending opportunities for professional development trainings. It's attending regional trainings and representing the community. So each objective we try to put in some sort of one or multiple tactics that help us achieve that objective. And that is the basically the second step in this process. And then after this, we threw it to staff to identify projects and put those projects within each tactic. So this is the large document that I printed off for you that has everything. So Mayor, like you had initially wanted with the Gresham model, we've identified each project with what department, which person, and also what level of priority that this project has. You will notice that the projects that are listed in each of the goal areas have either a high or a medium level. And so that was done by staff as what we see your objectives and goals are currently. Now, at the very bottom of this document and on a separate sheet, you'll see another list of projects that are classified as a low priority. And those are mainly projects that are not funded or are not ready or complete yet. At any time, the council can make a decision to move something. If you see a project that is listed in this future projects list that you feel compelled enough to talk to the other councilors and say, hey, this really is a priority, it needs to be moved up so we can really start working on it. The projects that are listed on the future horizon may not be projects that the staff are working on a daily basis. They are in the back of our minds. But they're at least on paper somewhere that they can be identified on. But moving back up to here, so like I said, medium and high priorities, you'll see that specifically under the economic development goal, we've identified some tactic areas, which would be the industrial park, the central waterfront, and riverfront. We've tried to work with Jacob as well as Jenny and John to really identify the process and steps for getting these projects done and in what order those should happen according to staff. So hopefully this gives you as a council, as well as the community, a better idea of what things need to be done before we can just start building. So, and as you go, move over to the right a little bit, you can see that it says what department, what person or department are overseeing this project, what the estimated cost is, and then what that funding source is. Some of it's grants, some of it's money that we already have. And then also on the far right is an estimated kind of finish date that we have for most of the projects that have been identified. So I know this is a lot to take in. And I'm sure you're going to have questions as we kind of work through this process. This is meant to be somewhat of a living document of a work plan so that it can constantly be changed and updated as council sees fit to direct staff and the city to move in a certain direction. So I'm happy to answer any questions or comments that anyone has.
I think down the road, maybe a good drill would be to review this list very closely and go through and make a back list of stuff we don't want on this list, so it's not so much in front of us if it's there, you know, if we all see it. And that would be council decisions, by the way. That would be a decision meeting specifically on these.
Yeah, I agree with prioritizing.
The one problem I see with this list, I'm just looking at city-owned property industrial park. And we have Jacob, Sue, and John in charge of it. There's a lot of details in this. Where do we get the details from Jacob, Sue, and John so we can make a decision? I mean, that they're in charge, but I'd sure like to know something about it in details. And as you go down this list, there's obviously a lot of details with a lot of projects that can't be handled in a public meeting or in a council meeting.
So on a hypothetical level, how that would play out would be just this, Councilor Topaz, is we would say this is this hypothetically, because I know we've kind of talked a little bit about this openly, is we would talk about the industrial park being in bigger chunks and phasing out into smaller chunks as it got closer to Old Portland Road. We'd explain that to a architect, whatever, and have them draw it up with some engineering behind it shortly after that, and with an engineering firm who would follow the process. That would be John, Sue, and Jacob in charge of that, because the city planner, our city engineer, and our administrator needs to know that our vision's being followed. Is that correct, everybody?
Well, you know, the key is with the department reports and how specific they are and what kind of help that they need. And so the key lies with our department heads and communicating to the council what's needed from their point of view so that we can help them out. So there's a disconnect there as well. Usually we have, a very good written reports is the way I see it. But in terms of listening to Councilor Topaz, there needs to be some audible exchange between the department heads and the council, I think, a little more effectively, a little more efficiently in our council meetings.
One of the problems with the report is that's post-event. That's telling us what has been done. We, at some point, should be at the front end trying to find out what problems that need to be solved and make suggestions on those problems.
Exactly.
And then when the report, and that doesn't, at least the way it's laid out here, that doesn't show up. We're kind of at the final end of the problem, not the front end of the problem.
Where you get on the front end, Steve, you start to get into micromanaging as well. It's a matter of the department heads asking for help and guidance as they move along, and again, what kind of things are there in the future? Take Gable Road, for example. We had good reporting on that from our department head, and we can't control the weather. But she brought it up that we do have issues with weather, and we do have issues with the infrastructure there, and any kind of sometimes our hands are tied, and we can only listen. And
Go ahead.
is that I don't want to jump the gun and go start to micromanage someone who is very skilled at doing what they're doing. And that's to me.
You're giving me a very short amount of intelligence when you're telling me how to manage things, especially large projects, especially overall front end line.
So
I agree with you. You can micromanage it, but some of us have done this up front, and some of the, we'll say, over the horizon questions that should be asked, they're not going to be answered then, but should be asked and the answers found out, is a very different scenario than micromanaging.
Listen,
I see a problem here.
I got to chime in for just a minute. Neither one of you guys were at Independence, and you need to understand the team that Independence had behind their waterfront development and the amount of state agencies and staff and new hires that they had behind it. And I wish you guys could have made it, and I understand you guys were busy.
No, I was there. I was there a year and a half ago. I mean,
you weren't there for the team, Doug. You weren't there for this last meeting, which showed.
No, I missed that.
I would rather have some of the other counselors chime in too on what they seen at Independence, not just be me trying to.
Well, I was muted.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't talk at all, so I've been here trying to buzz Matt, raising my hand.
All right.
But I have two prospects. We just got the grant to do the planning for the commercial property, for the industrial property, and that's a huge open process, which will have a lot of input from staff and from council. And it's like, that's where the problem is. It's like, we always work together as a team. It's not just Jenny and John and Jacob. It's going to be everybody as a team. We're just beginning that process. So just because their names are listed there doesn't mean the council isn't one of the members of that team. And I think that's what the mayor has touched on, is this is a team effort, and it includes all of the council, all of the staff, and the community.
Yep.
Mayor, if I could talk for a minute. So this council goals is just that. It's not the staff's goals to the council. It's intended to be the council's goals to the staff. And the priorities that are within this are, we've tried to interpret what we think the priorities are when you see the levels listed there, and a lot of them are high priority, some medium and low, and there's things that should be in a different order. We need to know that, so we need to know what to prioritize to work on. As far as detailed information about a specific project, that's something that can be delivered individually or collectively, depending on a kind of, we work for you, basically.
Would it be appropriate for us to take this document and mark it up individually and return that back to you?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yes.
We can mark it up I thought we did this, I thought we weren't going to do this, and we could get those questions, and then we can have an answer time. Because that way, each individual counselor comes at it from a different perspective. And if I sit down with the document alone, I'm going to be able to really be individual with those, as opposed to in the herd, in the group.
Yeah, and like I mentioned before, this is a list of projects coming of what staff thinks you're saying the direction should be. So these are all projects that we've heard from you, or projects that we know are coming down the pipeline. So if there's something that needs to be changed or updated or rearranged, yes, we're giving you this document as a work plan to go back and edit and move this here and take this out, and we're not doing this, and all that stuff. So if all 5 of you can do that.
My viewpoint might be different today than it was 4 months ago.
Correct.
And so it's like this, with what we're dealing right now in our community and as a nation and as a world, is different, and our priorities are going to be different. So I think that we kind of do need to take this periodic pulse checking of where we are and what the priorities are.
And I think that's the goal of this document, being more of what I call a work plan, as opposed to a strategic plan or something that has the connotation that it's more set in stone, whereas a work plan is something that can be edited and changed, not necessarily on the fly, but can be changed periodically when priorities change at the council level.
Hey, I appreciate that the amount of time it took to get this all done, and it's really good work. Now we get to look at it closely on paper. So,
And I think what you'll find is as you tick through it that, to come to the conclusion that just about everything's important. There's a lot of really good projects across there, and we're trying to overlay a reality of, the capacity of these staff and funding and things of that nature. So just because it's marked medium or low doesn't necessarily mean it's not important. We're recognizing funding or something.
Get into is that we assume that our consultants know more than we do, or that for some reason a department knows more than somebody else. I know they're in charge of the project, true, but that doesn't necessarily they're the smartest person on the block on that. And we all of a sudden, by bureaucratic methods, say, oh, they're in charge of it. They know more about it than you do. You can't say anything. And that's where having a two-way conversation as things go along, and not necessarily publicly, because everybody now has their own view of it. And now you're looking at a particular problem from a particular view because of your experience. That's one of the things that we don't do very well. We
I don't see that happening,
is the
Steve. Give us
can't.
an example. I don't see that happening. I totally disagree with you.
Then look again, Doug. Just look again. I mean, we have a lot of little problems. Let's get to one problem that should have been done a year and a half ago. Tell me about the water reservoir not leaking.
oh, that is nobody's fault except for the contractors, Steve.
No, that's somebody's fault, because our person shouldn't be in there gluing the holes, but should make sure it got done when it was being done. Saying, well, the contractor screwed up. Yeah, he probably did, but someone should have been on his nose making sure he didn't do it when he was doing it. That's our problem.
I'm sorry.
It isn't our job to do it, but it's our problem to make sure it's done right.
I'm sorry that you're upset about a contractor that screwed up and that you feel necessary to take it out on the city council and city staff. I'm sorry you feel that way, Councilor Topaz.
Well, Rick, I'm going to put this. When I've run projects and a contractor screws up on me, the people blame me for doing it. I should have made sure that the contractor did it right. But, I'm the guy carrying the ball, and I'm the guy that gets smacked down because the ball didn't get where it was to go. That's what I'm saying with the contractor. We should have been on him, and the person who should be on him is responsible for getting the job done. And we can't always keep pushing off the problem to the person who did it. We have to put it on the person who's responsible for getting it done. That's the difference in management that I've always had to deal with.
I think they were on top of it, Steve, and they paid, and the contractors are paying the price. And you know it as well as I do.
Yeah, it's not tough. So the entire purpose of this is to be better communicators to one another, to city and staff, to identify projects, to have input on those projects and prioritize them and move them forward. You guys, we have done a lot of work around this, and we are coming up on the objectives of these projects, a lot of them. And we're going to move this city forward, and we're going to be a cohesive, mainly a cohesive council. I like that there is a little bit of people rubbing each other and the wrong way a little bit, and that we challenge one another. I'm not upset with that. I don't encourage it, but I'm not upset with it. And we have the opportunity to do a lot of great things. We just do.
Hey, we all have opinions. We're 5 different people,
Yep.
and that's the power. That's the power of a council. It isn't just one person running everything. It's a lot of people's point of view. So yes, I do agree with that, Mayor. Totally.
So I just want to get back on track of what we're doing here. We're actually talking about goals, and so we can keep on task and work together. So we have that list there. Matt, was there more to this presentation?
So we're at the point right now where we would come up on a break. I'm not sure how you feel, Mayor, if you want.
Just do 5 minutes. We'll keep it rolling. 5 minutes, guys. I'm gonna go make another cup of coffee. I got one little sip left. So let's just do 5, okay?
So we will do 5 minutes. Please keep in mind that the meeting is still recording.
Yep.
So if you do not want to be heard, we will go ahead and mute yourself. So you're not heard. You can stop your video if you would like, but we still will be recording and streaming live. It will just not show.
I am sitting outside in April in shorts right now in my backyard. This is great.
So we will see
See
everyone
you
in 5 minutes.
Time to go in.
Hey, is everybody back?
Just
Locke.
waiting on Counselor Locke.
Okay. Welcome back, Counselor Locke. Okay, so next on our agenda is governing policy discussion.
Okay, I was going to take the lead on this one and wanted to kind of caveat that I don't expect to get a full resolution, but I just want to talk about it. We did last year about this time, we updated both the governing policy and the council rules. And the essence of it basically to empower the city administrator to oversee more of the day-to-day operations of the city. And that change happened. The most substantive change is the city administrator is now supervisor of the department heads, which from my perspective has been a good decision, and it seems to be working fairly well. But there are some exceptions to that as far as supervision. The council retains some authority as far as evaluating department heads, being involved with decision-making process through hiring and firing, policy interpretations individually as through this council assigned to the department. The governing policy talks about a counselor being assigned to a department, and then the governing rules talk about a liaison, and the liaison role is defined as a communication role. But when you kind of really break down that communication role and you reflect back upon the governing policy, there's actually, there's definitely some oversight and decision-making authority in the governing policy as far as, policy interpretation, hiring, firing, and it, as the policy currently works, we, this person that's assigned to the department is, part of this decision-making team that typically involves the city administrator, the department head, and the council person. So, and if their decision is not unanimous, then that decision goes to the council, and the.
See, John, I see a problem with this. It gets the mechanism going, but where you and the department head make some decision or some actions which are needed right now, it somehow the council ought to be informed that you did something, even though the council has no necessity to make any changes, but to be informed that something happened. That
Okay.
seems to be a short straw.
Yeah, maybe I wasn't clear.
The department reacted.
Maybe I wasn't clear that it's not just the department head and the city administrator. It includes in this collaborative decision-making process, the counselor assigned to the department is also part of that decision-making team. So we have little clusters of whomever is assigned to various departments is making these decisions across the organization that don't really send a unified message to the policy, to the council. Those decisions oftentimes don't make it back up to the full council if they're collaborative and are approved. The only way they would is if one of the three on the team doesn't agree with the decision, and then it goes to the council for interpretation.
Now, I'm not worried about decisions. I'm just worried about communications that you and the department head communicated. Oh, we had a heads up on this and that. Oh, thanks for knowing that happened. And that way the counselor is not in the loop of information, not in the loop of the decision, but in the loop of information.
I see where you're.
That's up to the counselor, Steve. That's up to the counselor to get involved. Now, you don't have to get involved. You can just sit back and not do, not check in with the department head or with the city administrator. But if you're involved, you're going to be right there. You're going to.
You have to be in the presence of John to get this communication, because as you're wandering around town and John has the communication with the department, there's no reason that that communication just happened. That's what I'm saying. And we'll say minuscule information, but gets to be very important over time.
I can tell you, as a council person, it is our responsibility to ascertain what's going on in our department because we are the liaisons. We're not just sitting back watching things happen. We are the liaisons of what's going on. We need to know. And so if we sit back on our laurels and just let things happen, so be it. And then complain about it, oh, sorry. It doesn't work that way. We have to take that initiative to get involved with our department.
You talk to the library. Do you always inform me that you talk to Margaret?
What's that?
John and Margaret have a conversation about something at the library. Okay? And I happen to say Tuesday at 3:00 in the afternoon. When does Topaz get to know that there was a conversation?
Because you are part of that team and you are asking John or Margaret to get a hold of you if there's any kind of decisions that are being made. That's how it works. You're the captain of that. You can be the captain of that team, and you are, and we're relying on you as a council to be a councilman who's going to report back to us of what's going on.
There's a lot of small discussions that are just informational and not decision level that are needed.
That's right.
And you have to walk into John's office and give me a report. But a lot of times John's busy. So, I mean, it's some of the day-to-day information that doesn't rise to the level of, we'll say, a meeting, but should be passed on. That's one of the failings we have of keeping an organization really moving smoothly. So it's little hiccups, not the big bumps.
Well, I think we're the catalyst in that. We're in between the department head and the city manager in terms of making those decisions, and the counselors right there, because they cannot fire. They can't fire any individuals without bringing the counselor in. That's one of the things that needs to be. The most important thing is, Steve, you've got to get involved. And when I go down to City Hall, I'm either up in the Public Works or Parks, and then I'm down with also with our city manager, John Walsh. I mean, I bounce between, and so that's the way I keep informed. And if I don't do it, if I'm not there in presence, then I'm on the phone or I'm writing an email.
Councilor
So it works
Chopis,
for me.
Can I ask a question? Is it your expectation to be involved in the day-to-day operations of a department?
No.
You asking me?
No, I'm actually asking Councilor Topaz.
No, but let's say John and Margaret talked about buying 3 new yellow books for whatever reason.
And you want to be involved in that conversation?
It was her total decision to buy 3 yellow books. And she had a conversation with John that she just bought 3 yellow books. Level of importance for the counselor is not high, not required. But it's nice to know that the 2 of them had a conversation about 3 yellow books.
I think that's part of the
communication I'm worried about. The fact that she has to buy 3 bulldozers to move the new bookcase, now that I would be required to get in on.
Well, I think what the discussion is kind of gearing around is everything should be going through John.
Yep.
And then the department heads. And so as far as a city councilor is concerned, what we're discussing is your level of involvement on the department is up to you as a counselor to ask John what's going on. And then John can inform you about him and Margaret buying books or anything like that on a regular basis. You're still involved right now as the governing policy to aid in any decisions of firing somebody or God forbid anything like that would happen. But I think what we're trying to do as far as a governing policy is to not necessarily draw a line in the sand, but make it clear that department managers right now, as you saw on that SWOT list, don't have any real 100% idea, is John my boss, or is Rick my boss, or is Counselor Topaz my boss, or is John my boss? And so there's a lot of confusion about where the authority lies and where the management level lies. And so what we're trying to stress here is the council is a governing body and not necessarily involved on day-to-day operations. And it just sounded like from some of the questions you're asking that you want to be involved and you feel that you should be involved in day-to-day operations and projects that are going on.
Well, it's either involved or informed. I think Steve was talking about
the
being
informed is the word, not involved.
Okay.
Okay, so if he's informed, it's up to him to either, if he doesn't get the answer from John, like you're suggesting, Matt, then you simply turn around and go to the librarian and say, hey, update me, what's going on? And we've got to have that kind of camaraderie and that kind of teamwork happening on all levels and in all departments, I believe, to make it function. There's the team.
Sorry, I didn't mean to overtake the conversation there, John.
Yeah, that's so. And I'll try to get back to Councilor Topaz's question here. The governing policy talks about the counselor being assigned to one or more departments. It doesn't really talk about boards and commissions, although it's been past practice that it's administration, police, and public works, and library as departments also have various boards and commissions that plug into those departments or feed those departments. So just food for thought. The arts and cultural, the budget committee, library board, parks and trails, planning commission, youth council, probably skipping a few there. We're all, they're not really departments, and then they really don't have just a lot of decision. They don't have the weight of decisions of when you're dealing with establishing policy for a department, especially personnel types of policies. The decisions involving employees, termination seems to be a line in my mind that the counselor or that person assigned to the department may want to not have a role in that, because that's really in part because they would potentially be the appeal board to that decision if they wanted to appeal the decision and kind of go up the chain. There would already be one vote there,
but it's the counselors. This is just the way I've done it, is it's my responsibility to go to my section and have like an update, like a touch base, like whether that's once a month, every other week, whatever. It's like, what's up? What's going on? I'm seeing this in the community. Can you tell me what this means? So I'm going to answer questions. I have little sits downs with Jenny and Jacob, and sometimes with Sue, because it crosses over a little bit. It's planning is everything. You kind of got to be in the know with stuff going on in your community, and just have a little sit down and go, what's up? Just to kind of get a lay of the land. And then I know I come in prepared with the overall, because obviously with planning, I'm not going to make Jacob's decision or try to influence his decision. I just listen, so I'm better prepared when those things come to council. But that's what I thought my role was, is to carve out time to sit down with John or with Jacob and say, what's up with this, or this, with key issues I see in the community.
That's good. Those are good words. Those are good words, Jenny. And I appreciate, and as you well know, many times we have projects that overlap. And a good example is of the playground equipment and that kind of thing, and they just overlap. And I think it's so key to communicate and keep each other informed of where we're going and the direction we're going, because we're all doing it. We're all doing the same thing. We just need more communication to help each other out. Without the communication, we can't help.
Yeah, Jacob doesn't call me. I go and sit down and have a little touch base with him. I would say at the most twice a month. Because that's just kind of how planning goes. And I just touch base. If you want to know what's going on in your department, you got to ask the questions.
So my only concern is that would be a disconnect from our citizens and how we serve them well. I hear what you guys are asking for, but sometimes citizens don't come into the city hall office to let Matt Brown or John Walsh know exactly what's going on. They find a city councilor or a mayor out in public to let
Right.
them know what's going on. So I'm kind of, I mean, I hear what you guys are saying and I agree with it to almost a huge extent, but except for that, when we're hearing things enough that, especially when more than one counselor hears it, then it's kind of like, well, hey, this is your department and this is what we got going on. And just want to let you know, give you a heads up if it's Counselor Locke, say, and this is what's being said about the police are doing this. And there's nothing going on, Chief Greenway, if you're listening. Just, but just an example.
Right. No, I'm not. My clarification is stuff comes up all the time and I, get in John's ear. I'm just not bothering my individual workers and distracting them from their job.
I'll tell you right now, people say that you, John, your job should require that you live here. That's just what they say.
That is a possibility. So,
Not the first time I've heard that.
yeah, for sure. So, I mean, the question I ask is kind of, what do you see the role of this counselor liaison assignment person? And are you comfortable with limiting yourselves to individual departments? Because there's been some, if you don't have those controls placed upon yourself, then you have kind of free latitude to,
No, I agree.
Across the spectrum and work with whatever department that you're interested in at the time. So,
and I think if somebody feels like they are not being respected in at least a little bit of their role, they bring it to the council. I agree that we limit that. I totally agree that I shouldn't come in and say, hey, Sue Nelson, I want sidewalks put on 11th Street just because a couple citizens came at me and have been coming at me for years. And they also want a little drainage curb and a load of gravel put in. I mean, John, you were there on that one conversation with the person on 11th Street. Yeah, that's just the example I used right there. That should not be something I should be able to come in and say, do this.
No, Rick, but it's important that you knew about it.
Yeah.
That's the information versus the decision. You should have known about it. That's good. The fact that the decisions were made by somebody else is the way it should have been. That's the thing I'm pointing out, that somehow you got to have that other piece of the information, even though it's just information, not things that we're going to react to.
I'm truly blessed with my job that I get to work around the community and that I'm approachable and that I have a lot of interaction with the community. I am truly blessed in that sense. And that's the only reason it just was happenstance. They didn't even know John was my administrator when we were out in public, and it came up.
So if you're happy with the way things are working, then that's completely your prerogative. We're just kind of bringing it up to, it came up, a few other things came up as far as the rotation of counselors between departments, the assignment, the concentrations, and just that among the council to these discussions.
Do people feel neglected or do people feel pestered?
I can honestly say from what we heard from staff during the SWOT analysis, people are just generally confused.
Okay, I'm just trying to kind of peel it back and figure out which way that arrow needs to go.
Well, we decided in our council goals that John was the authority. That's right. We were trying to switch that over to the extent of not hiring or firing of people, and that we also be in the loop on bigger decisions or discussions.
Right. That's why I didn't understand the confusion.
Yes. That's it. That was, I think, where we were at, John. Other than that, yeah, you're the boss.
Well, John, the
All ears.
You got it? Well, yeah, the onus is on you, because if counselors overstep their bounds and start to micromanage from your point of view, or someone comes to you and says, hey, the counselor came in and told me this and this and this, you have got to bring that. You've got to bring that to the council. First of all, you've got to talk to that council person and bring it to the council as a whole. And the council has to make a decision of what's going on with overreacting with either one or two or three counselors or whatever. So if we overstep that bounds and don't respect the staff in doing their responsibility and doing their job, and try to come in and tell them how to do their job, the rest of council needs to know that. And because we've all agreed to let the staff and let you manage it.
Well, he's the only one who's in a funny spot, because he is under the direction of us, and and works for each and every one of us. He's not just under administration, myself and Morton. He works for each and every single one of us. So that's in a funny spot. It's really something that we need to maybe closely monitor amongst our council a little bit better.
Yes.
And if we feel like that is happening, we need to have an executive session where we can talk about just the demographic of our council, and we don't need anybody there.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. The city administrator works for each individual counselor
Yep.
in their department roles, and while also serving as the entire the collective interests of the community, or the city council and the greater community.
Yep.
So following all the ethics and standards of things. And
Yeah.
so yeah, it is a very difficult place.
Yep.
Just looking for ways. Some councils have adopted, and I'm not suggesting this, but that break between administration and policy is a really hard stop. Nothing. Everything comes through. The councilors don't interact with anybody unless they've been authorized by the city manager. And I'm not suggesting that. It's just, but I think with the steps we've made have been in a good direction. I just wanted to bring it back, kind of check in on this issue, and I think this has been pretty constructive. The communication piece I get loud and clear, but and to the extent counselors bring me information, I do attempt to share that information with other counselors as I hear it.
Yeah.
Would the city council be open to maybe John and Rachel, myself and Kathy, maybe creating some kind of a document that kind of explains the liaison role for staff and maybe for the counselors as well, just to kind of put down on paper what the expectations are of what liaison roles can do, and kind of helps draw those lines a little bit for some of the department managers and staff that do have that confusion?
Well, not only draws the lines, but also gives that counselor more power, knowing what they can and can't do as well, because I think some people don't realize what they can and can't do as well. I mean, we are elected officials. We are, voted into this spot to do things for the citizens. So yeah, I would love that.
Councilor Martin, I'm not sure if you...
Lines is bad news.
I miss.
John is the center point of two operations, the council operation and the staff operation, which it should be. That shouldn't change at all. It's a communication of, we say, the minor stuff, not policy, minor stuff, just to make the rest of our day so we can be thinking about some things rather than just at official meetings.
Councilor Topaz, here's what I think's going on. I think that you want the amount of information so you can take home and study, and John's not able to produce that because he has an entire city, and you're wanting information on stuff that interests you and you alone, and we have an entire city, and I think that's what I see going on, and I have been seeing it go on for quite some time, and I just need to bring it up because I have seen you come into that city hall every day on a daily basis. And I'm not even down there, but maybe twice a week, and usually it's because I have to sign stuff. I just need to let you know that's not the way this works.
Not only that, I talked to my group pretty much every day too. And I look at other parts of the city. The management that I've had over my years, that's what I do. I walk the floor.
But that is not what the citizens put you in office for. If you
To
wanna work
keep
for the city-
my head on and know what's going on is what my office is about. How I get to enact that
Like I said,
held by the rules.
I'm sorry that you feel that way, and it's something I've witnessed, and I just needed to let you know that that is not the role of counselors, is to micromanage staff, and that's what this is, and we all do it. You're not the only one. I've come in and tried to micromanage too. Trust me, I've had conversations with Matt and John where I've tried micromanaging. I'm not perfect. We need to allow them to do their job, because we're disrupting them when we come in and we're trying to ask for monetary stuff that concerns us that really is not relevant to what they have going on with the day-to-day operations at that time. And it really sets them back. It makes them think, okay, how important was that? Do I do this so I could not have them back in here tomorrow? But I got all this other stuff going on, legal stuff. We got big stuff going on, especially right now in a city of 14,000. We're number 40 as far as population. This isn't little podunk St. Helens. We are number 40 out of 241 incorporated cities. And we really need to move this city forward. And this whole goal operation is to figure that out. And this is just a little clarification on breakdown and how we make it more efficient. And that's what this discussion is about. It's not about attacking you. I'm not perfect, and I do the micromanaging myself, Councilor Topaz. So if you're offended, I apologize, but I didn't mean for it to be offensive to you.
I'm not offended at all, Rick. Now, information is incredibly important. It's not necessarily micromanaging, but finding out information. Sometimes asking the question does enlighten the people you ask the question to, that there are some better ways of doing things, or maybe they're doing it better than they need to. You can call that anything you want, but information is just information. It's not direction. A question is not direction. And if you take it like that, then...
No, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. No, I hear you.
It sounds like what, like we need it's like a job description, or like what our roles are and what they're not. Because it sounds like there's some confusion on that.
Well, I think there's confusion. Yeah, go ahead, Jenny.
No, that's all I had to say.
Well, I think there's a bit of confusion between the departments and some of the commissions that we oversee. Because the voters in the past, in the most recent election, when they weighed in on the charter review, overwhelmingly passed that we maintain a commission form of government. And from the get-go, I thought, okay, we have commissions. We have the Parks and Trails Commission. So do I oversee that, or am I a liaison of that commission? Well, in my feeling, I oversee it. But when it comes to the Department of Public Works and Parks, I'm a liaison. And so, yes, there is, that's the way I handle it. And everyone else might handle it a little differently.
That is not the way it's set up, Doug. It is actually set up just like Portland, where you are commissioners. You're not counselors. You're called commissioner.
Right.
Yes. And you oversee at the time, maybe, where did he end up? I think before he passed away, I think he was over maybe Public Works.
That's correct.
Department. And
yes.
But he was over the police at one time. He is the commissioner of that. The main importance of this, why we get a stipend, is because of Public Works was for you. Now it's Public Works and Administration that we share together. Keith is really police. Jenny's is really planning. And Topaz is really the library. It's not the Arts and Cultural Commission. It's not. That is just part of a knockoff, but the commission is actually, those are the core, is the way Portland is set up.
That's correct.
Yes.
I understand that.
So I just want to let you know that taking your commission, Parks Commission to the next level, or the Planning Commission to the next level, really Jenny's in charge of Jacob and kind of Michael, which shares with Keith because because he's got code involved, so he falls under law enforcement. I learned all this, of course, through the process. So it's those are really our commissions. It's not, yes, we are.
We do have a Parks Commission.
No, and I get that, but
We do have an Arts and
what I'm
Cultural.
saying is your stipend is not a reflection of your Parks Commission and how you run that.
It most certainly is.
Your commission.
That's my commission.
So you're telling me every counselor in Portland
I'm not, this isn't Portland. I'm talking about St.
That's
Helens.
what we're modeled after. No, that's what we're modeled after.
No, we're not, Rick. We have a
We're not.
hybrid.
We're a hybrid?
Yes.
Oh, so was this back in the, what, 15, 14 years ago? I don't know. I'm curious.
No, we follow under our council rules.
Huh?
We follow our council rules.
And our governing policy.
Well, exactly. So when was it hybrided? Because I was understood that we were exactly Portland is what I was explaining when
After the voters approved the commission form of government, the council got together and made a hybrid to where the counselor no longer was in charge of the department, but they became liaisons at that time. That's the hybrid. So they're not commissioners of the police. They're the liaison of the police to the council. So that's the hybrid part of it. But the strong part of that is that we write the evaluations of the department heads of the departments that we are liaisons of. So in a sense, it's a division of power. It's a check and balance between the staff and between the council.
Okay.
And when it comes to hiring and firing, there's a great check and balance, because if the city manager wanted to fire a department head, hold on, can't do that, because the counselor might come in and say, no, you can't do that. And if the counselor didn't agree, then it goes back to the entire council. Yep. So there are checks and balances, and in a true
the understanding
manager, there are no checks and balances that way. What the city manager says is, there's not a counterbalance there.
The understanding though is that there's also, even if a counselor and a department head agree and the city manager does it, that it still goes to council.
That's correct.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's what Keith meant by a hybrid. And so it isn't a true commission form. And I've just always thought, well, there's a Parks Commission, and so I feel that I have been behaving like I oversee the Parks Commission. And that's just the way I've taken it. And it's a great team, and they're looking for leadership, and they use me as a liaison to the council. They make recommendations to me, and I bring it to the council. That's kind of the way it worked the Parks Commission. With the library, I'm not certain what you've got, Steve. I know that you've started to report on it, and I really appreciate that. But I've always seen the commissions as a team, a group of people who we're looking for, they've got great missions. We're looking for them for direction.
And I hear this, but what we're talking about is the biggest mission of all, our council goals. We're getting out on this, and it really frustrates me because we get sidetracked by these types of conversations in our day-to-day operation. And I'm just going to say this right now, that sometimes we get sidetracked by other little commissions with the task we have at hand, because an individual counselor wants or needs something for that commission. And we are getting sidetracked. And I just need to say that because we got some big projects that need to get accomplished. And if I hurt somebody's feelings, so be it. I work for the citizens, and I'm not here to not discuss the bigger ticket items and continue to push those through. And the littler stuff sometimes does have to take second seat to the big ticket items.
That's what the council's for. The council decides those things. If somebody,
Exactly, Doug, what I just said. Did you listen to me?
Yes.
Okay, so rather than worrying about, we are running 3-hour meetings sometimes, and there are some things that could be managed through, if you need that your department head, just relay it to the city manager and see if you can get it done that way, rather than bring it to the council and make a big production out of whatever's going on.
Well, I represent the citizens as well, and I represent the citizens on that Parks Commission. And I better well report on what's going on with that Parks Commission, because they are advising us. They are part of our community as well.
Well, and I get that, Doug, but you realize that we have waterfront redevelopment, we have city streets.
I understand all of that.
We have safety, we have public safety. We have a number of things that don't get the attention that they probably deserve. And we're talking about, we're trying to do big ticket items, but then we get sidetracked by this conversation right now is really pointless. It really is. We're trying to do council goals, and we're getting sidetracked by feelings and educating people on how smart an individual is, which it's not about me. It's about this council goals, moving the city forward, and representing the citizens and what they have and need from us. So I'd like to get back to John and get out of this conversation, this tit for tat and education type. For me, I'm learning as I go. I'm not perfect. I will make some mistakes. Excuse my shortcomings, please. And but we'd have to be able to move more efficiently. And this is part of that miscommunication when it comes to our weaknesses and our threats. Is this is what council, the misinformation and the council rules sometimes where we get stuck is right here, right now. And I understand that's what's going on. So I'm going to zip up and turn it back to John.
Okay, thank you. The city manager or the city administrator's role is really multifaceted. You have this supporting your staff, moving the staff forward. You have this ombudsman to the community. You're the regional contact representing the city at the regional and state level, and then you're supporting the council as a whole, and in this case individually. So I feel like my role is to facilitate, provide you the information, facilitate the discussion you need to make informed decisions. So that's in the short and sweet right there. This notion of commission form is something that is created through the governing policy. It may have come from the election, 2012 election, I believe. I think it's 2012, but it's not in the charter, is my point here. It's in the governing, it's been something that's been self-created through the governing policy, through the council rules, and you have the ability to change that. I totally get that you have that rear window to look at what the community has told you as far as the direction of how they want you to manage the city. And I just want you to take that to heart as you kind of move forward through this. And I know it's difficult to talk about, and and I don't see I think this has been a healthy discussion. So.
Yep. Okay. Wrap up. We're at council team agreement.
Yes, and if I could take this back just a little bit, I will let myself and Matt, John and Kathy work on a proper job description that will be open to input and find a way to come together on the roles and responsibilities. Yes, at this point, we are going to go into a team agreement. This is something that came up at our first meeting. Many, many cities across the state and the nation have a team agreement as to how city council works together as a group, and also how you represent the city individually. So in your packet, and Matt, if you are able to share the draft, it is page 14 in the packet. Went through, I did quite a bit of research on this, and these all come from what I've been calling the Dunkel mantras. The way you comport yourselves, the way we work together to serve the city. I can just start to read through them. These are very commonly adopted by resolution. And it's really basic stuff. This is attendance being the first priority. There you go. Thank you, Matt. Really hard not to have a co-host. Really hard, and thank you all for your patience with me as we work around. These are things that have come up in every meeting, and the conduct, of course, of meetings is improving amazingly. And of course, you are all dedicated. We all serve the city of St. Helens. Not everyone can read. I think some of the most important things that I'd like to point out are down at the bottom, the individual council member conduct agreements, cultivating exchange of views with other councilors. And this is great, and this is amazing. And I really appreciate Mr. Mayor and each of you councilors, how we have come through this part of our goal setting meeting and this cultivating of exchange as we move towards unified goals. And also being out in the community. I know I try and live this. I know we all do. Not doing or saying anything that would harm or discredit the city or any staff member. And then commitments as a council, as a body. Being straightforward about those goals, issues, and priorities. Continuing to improve citizen involvement, awareness, and participation. And some of the entire, sections of our goals focus right around these very things. Improving follow-up and resolution of citizen concerns or complaints. We've touched on that in this meeting. And acting as an advocate. Always acting as an advocate. So from the research and from each of you, this is what we have come up with as just a one-page agreement. I would really like and advocate for this to be adopted at an upcoming work session, or council session rather, just so that we have something. This will also help to train and onboard future counselors. You have each brought this up, the need for really good onboarding, and having just shared values and shared conduct will be a help in that. So any comments?
No, I like what its purpose is.
Good. Yep, and there's going to be a lot more work around that onboarding. I think just coming out of this conversation, having a really clear job description and having a really clear standard of conduct, how we work together and how we act individually when we're out in public is always helpful. With that on the agenda, and out of order, what we've learned from George Dunkel, serving as an advocate was absolutely the first thing. So I really appreciate, Mr. Mayor, that we've been reading those, and I want to continue that, or encourage you all to, even before you come to the meeting when you're leaving your home, to just have it somewhere posted, that type of thing. I do want to talk a little bit about what messages you want to share with our community about this process and about those goals. And I am just gonna read through, an effective and efficient organization, community and civic engagement, a livable and safe community, economic development, and long-term planning. Come really far, and also I will be typing those up and putting them into a format that we can share. But I wanted to hear from each of you just a sentence or two about what you'd like to share about the responsibility of setting goals, the responsibility of oversight, about the direction, and anything about this process that's been helpful or not.
Who wants to start? Anybody?
Well, anything, Rachel, anything that helps communication or aids in more effective and efficient communication is a big plus. And knowing what each other's doing, we need to pull together. We need to understand each other and our own kind of motivations of what we see as getting things done. I think that's really important. I think the more we're together and working and talking, the better off we're going to be.
Thank you.
Oh, come on, you guys. Somebody say something.
I think you wanted one sentence basically on our council goals and to the citizens of what is that what I understood? Rachel?
Yeah, I was trying to set you a prompt there.
Yes.
A sentence about the direction.
The city on rock is ready to rock and roll. That's what I gotta say.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. All right. Oh, heavens.
You want a one-liner, that's it.
Perfect.
That one-liner is the last 6 months have been great. We made a lot of headway.
Yeah, it's hard for me to feel, I'm positive about the commitment of the team, that this is just the beginning, because this is all rough working document that isn't even close to the work that we have yet ahead of us. It's still, this is by far from done. So, but it's definitely a process, and communication is definitely a big key piece of that.
Councilor Topaz?
I'll follow up what Jenny said. I'll put that in spades. It's the beginning of the process.
Well, I think you guys, I'm just concerned because looking at that pyramid, I mean, we're down in the objectives that, it's been a long road. I've only been here, a lot of this planning some of it started before I even got here, and I have been here for a little over 3 years now. And I got to tell you, we're at objectives on a lot of those, which is like knocking on the door of starting some of these big projects. I mean,
And one of the things that we got to realize is that our council is possibly going to change, and in a very short time, and so we start all over again, in many senses. And it's good that the framework, and what Jenny was alluding to is that we have a framework. And the framework is the start. It's always the start. It's always the foundation. And that's the most important thing is that everyone understands the framework. And I think that we've done a remarkable catch-up job.
Hey,
Thank you.
Council Lopez, I spoke at our last council retreat about how you spoke at the city county dinner. What is that?
Somebody's phone ring.
Oh, and I was concerned that you didn't know some information. And it really is a big learning curve for me. I had to really take a lot of different suggestions from staff, and I offered myself anything that I thought would help the city, I would go attend and do and sit in on. And I know that you have been coming in quite regularly, sometimes to get informed. But there is so much. If I can ever help you out in any way, shape, or form, if you have any questions, feel free to call me. I was a little disturbed about what you said in the county dinner, that you didn't know a lot of information. And the reason I didn't know is because I didn't know. Government's a whole different process than business. I just want to put that out there to you.
Yeah, I know where my phone is. I know your phone number, so that's not a problem.
Yeah,
I
I
see
just
you down
wanted.
at City Hall, so we haven't a problem there. But I am information connected, no doubt about it, and I definitely always need more.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that.
Yeah, fully aware of that, and happy to be with you.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. And thank you all so much. I know this has been quite a journey getting to this point. Our next steps, really to package the vision so that we can share this more broadly, to speak about our goals, to be able to point to specific objectives and tactics. I would really appreciate it if each of you would go through those projects. Councilor Carlson, like you were saying, really dig in. We've heard the broad swipes, for example, economic development, develop the riverfront. So we have gone through and as staff listed out in what we believe is a stepwise fashion, the way to get there. Having your support in this, of course, means everything, and knowing that we are working to meet the mission and the direction set by you as a governing body is the most critical thing. So this will be packaged pretty much down to that tactic level. I think the project, as Matt alluded to, it's a living document. The list is living. Please do dig in on that. We're also going to go ahead and bring that up for adoption, the goals for adoption, as well as that team agreement. And I think we're going to work as a management team to develop some guidelines and a really clear job description for you all and for how we relate to each other. Those are our next steps. And I just want to thank you so much for your service.
Thank you. So, hey, I want to actually have John and Matt kind of chime in a little bit on the day-to-day operations for our citizens. I think if we're going on YouTube and we have a meeting, just the demographic of this COVID and how people can pay their water bill still, Matt, I think is a big thing. A lot of people are confused about that. And just and how you're going about just a little bit. And I'm not asking you to go completely in depth, but that we are still an operating city, and because I feel disconnected also. And I think most of the council is like, this is just a little different. It works, it moves it forward, but it's not the same.
It's a little different being in the same room with each other than it is being on screen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Matt wants to take the utility piece. That'd be great. I can talk
yeah,
about
I can take the utility piece. I'll leave John everything else. So as far as utility bills, we did just recently, as of yesterday, and Crystal was working on, I'm not sure if she got it out by today, but we did close the lockbox that is outside our utility billing office where people can drop off payments. We had an unfortunate incident where someone or some resident decided to leave something in the lockbox that was a little less to be determined as far as what it was and what the purpose was. So kind of ruined it for everybody else that was legitimately trying to make payments. So we did we did tape that up so people can't put payments into the lockbox. And Public Works, I believe is tomorrow, is just going to take down the lockbox. All the signs that we've seen here point to this lasting at least through June. Or into June and July. So rather than just having some duct tape over the opening or something, I'm going to have Public Works take down the lockbox. Now, people can still make payments through the mail. They can also make payments online. They can also make payments through the phone. And we have somebody in the utility billing office 8 to 5 every single day. So you can certainly call our office and ask any questions or any issues that may come up. We're still doing service calls. If you need a leak check or anything like that, Public Works is obviously still out there every day. So we're still kicking.
Okay, I just wanted to give an update because I know, a lot of citizens are, if you are watching, I want them to know. And John, how difficult has it been with all the moving parts of this COVID and the liabilities?
Keeping up with the flow of information has just been really challenging. Regulations are changing. There's new opportunities all the time. And there's things rolling out from the state and the feds, and trying to, coordinate resources towards, supporting people to not have another, recession type event. And the city hall's closed right now, but it doesn't mean we're closed for business. There are people working in the building. We're taking in permit applications, putting them out, ensuring worker safety. So we're actually being fairly productive on that front. There's a shifting of resources as far as, it's a really difficult time for the citizens, but more so the people that make a livelihood, the small businesses that are here. So the things we've been doing in tourism, we're kind of reshifting some of that, Tina's time to be out working with these people that are affected, that when it does come back online, this city, we can get out of our homes and resume a semi-normal life again, that they'll be as well supported as possible by the city.
Very, very, very good point is that this is kind of something of being a liaison to administration. I could do, tell John Walsh and Rachel Berry to kind of be looking at Salem and see what kind of opportunities we have for our small businesses, because St. Helens has a lot of small business operations. And I know Portland's going to get $100 million from the state. And boy, we need a little bit. We don't need that kind of money, but we need to be looking at that. And maybe Jenny, who is also good at looking at grants, Dim Show, that we be looking into that sooner than later and getting on a list, because we did declare a state of emergency and definitely have a lot of small businesses that are being affected by this.
Yes.
We will take 100 million if they give it to us.
We would take 100, yes, but those are the types of things that we do as commissioners over our departments. So those type of discussions we do have those are big ticket discussions that have to be made. So
yeah, and unfortunately, we're not in a place where we have the financial capacity to do a small business development
we can't.
program. And
$90.8.
Right, and we struggle to support the the food bank and the senior center and other transit and other organizations that are valuable in this community.
Yep.
But doesn't mean that we can't facilitate information, be that convener of connecting resources, and do our part there. And
But if there's pass-through opportunity, because sometimes you need a fiscal agent as a pass-through, so you never know if there's a program to help them, because we don't have the financial resources, but we do have, you and Rachel, and that maybe there's a middleman that we can be helping these local businesses access those resources.
Totally agree, Jenny.
Yeah, it's like we're all a team and we all are working on the same side.
So I wanted to share a update from our communications director, Crystal, guidance from the CDC, how they've been requesting that we no longer use the term social distancing, that social distancing seems to imply that you're self-isolation, and they prefer the term physical distancing. So we're supposed to strike social from our vocabularies and use physical as part of the new
Makes sense.
nomenclature. So just kind of speaks to the gravity of the issue of people in their homes that aren't well supported and feeling isolated and alone getting through this.
So we're calling it
Physical
distancing.
Physical distancing, yes.
Okay, everybody say that 3 times.
That is really difficult to get used to, yes.
Physical distancing, physical distancing. They say you say it 3 times to remember it for sure. Physical distancing. Well, I tell you, it has been definitely tough on me. I know it's been tough on this council, the administration, and we're getting through it though. You know, that's everybody. You know, we've been talking as this moves along, the administration and myself, and was so many moving parts there for first couple weeks. It was not even funny, and then it slowed down, and it looks like us doing those, following all the stuff and doing everything we could humanly possible is making a difference. The curve is, we're going to be okay. Oregon's going to be okay. So we're not out of the woods yet, but we are going to be okay.
I wanted to share that you have a very dedicated staff. You know, the police are out there on the front lines. They don't get a break from the distancing and all this, and they have to come when called. Your public works people that are delivering clean water and treating the sewer and maintaining streets they're out there, they're doing it. They deserve a good pat on the back for that. They're just really stand up in this event.
Thank you for that, John. They definitely do. Thank you all for what you guys do. How's everybody else doing? Counselors?
My grass is cut and I have toilet paper, so I'm good.
Topaz, how you doing?
Doing real good, working with a number of people around the world, and some of it on this problem. That's what we do. I had a conversation with Rachel about the nurses and the EMTs and the people in the emergency room. In one way, it's no big deal. This is what they do every day, but all of a sudden, people have noticed how important they are. There are a lot of people in our community and other places that do important work, but nobody noticed them. This go-round, a lot of people got noticed, and we finally, maybe we're realizing like some of those insignificant people that we've looked over are incredibly important to our health and welfare. And it's about time we say, good job.
Yep. Keith, you out there?
Keith, I think lost a connection. So
Oh, maybe
I saw him freeze for about 30 seconds and then he dropped off.
Okay. Well, we were about ready to wrap it up anyhow. Doug?
Well, I lost my job this year, so this season, and I've got, I personally, I feel lost about that. I mean, if it's a personal kind of thing, but how fortunate I am in so many senses to be part of this council. And to me, it's, I asked to do this job, and I ran for the position, and I have a passion for it. And so I'm excited. I'm excited about getting things going on the riverfront. And as much as you might not like to hear it, I'm excited about where our parks are going to. So, Rachel, I've got
not
one.
my intent. Like I said, I do have some feelings. I do.
I've got one. I know. I've got Rachel. I've got one kind of comment to make about job descriptions. And when you said that, it sounds a little military to me. And if you're going to do my job description, get ready to write 20 pages. I'm serious. And so, you know what, I think a better word might be council expectations, and the expectations of what we're doing, what's expected of us. And so, you know, I like that. That has, because, you know, we're visionaries, and what's the expectations that other council have for us, that the staff has for us, and above all, the citizens have for us. Okay? That's my
Absolutely. Love it. Love
Okay.
it. Thank you.
Thank you all for being open to that.
Absolutely. And that's what it's about, is just communication amongst your family. I don't know who's watching. As long as we communicate what's going on and we continue to talk and keep the open mind and share what's going on, it takes the power out of it. It doesn't hold us hostage as far as inside our head with our fear. And that's what it is. It's a lot of fear around this, the unknown. Nobody likes the unknown. We all like rituals. We like having our daily regiment, and it's been disturbed big time. And we continue to talk about it. I'm outside today running this meeting, and I'm watching the birds fly, the bugs, and life is still happening. And I would have to do the physical distancing and definitely be social. You can talk from 6 feet away. I can talk from across the yard, no problem. Definitely share your concerns and with one another, and enjoy this beautiful week we're having. You can be out doing some physical distancing. So I think that's all. I think we're going to wrap her up unless somebody has a final thought.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yep. All right. We're adjourned.
All right, have a good night.
Yep.